And welcome to this week's Buffalo Game Space podcast. I'm John Futscher, and with me is...
Hi, I'm Chris Langford.
Greg Giles.
Hi, I'm John Fernando.
Ryan Mallette.
Qazi Onename.
Your last name is one name?
Now he's getting all fancy on us already.
The developer formerly known as Qazi.
Quasi's fresh back from PAX, and we're going to be picking his brain about that in a little bit. But right now, everybody's talking about Nintendo's big announcement of the day, which I have no idea what's going on, so somebody needs to fill me on what happened.
So today, Nintendo had their, I think it's their quarterly business report is what it came out of, right?
Right, yeah, they released their profits
Okay.
and earnings this, I think, today.
Yeah, and they announced officially that the NX, which is still the in-development name, is going to be launching in March 2017, I believe, yeah. That was the big one, and the slightly less big one is that the new Zelda game's been delayed.
Yep.
Oh, no.
Yeah, nobody saw that coming. So the other interesting thing that happened recently is AMD put out their earnings report, and they mentioned that they got a new couple of quote-unquote big wins in the video game space.
Mm-hmm.
One of them is probably the NX.
It's the NX, and I think they're also involved in the PS4.5.
Well,
and
the PS4 is currently an AMD chip as well, so
Yeah.
it only makes sense that PS4.5 would be an AMD chip too.
and the Xbox One 2.
Yeah. Well,
These names, though.
Yeah.
yeah. What a mess.
It makes it so easy with all the nomenclature of one, but it's not the original, but it's that one, but shit.
Yeah.
Yep.
So what's up with the Nintendo NX? Any details on it other than it's a year away? And
It's a year away. There was some patents that actually became public pretty recently too that had like some interesting controller designs.
Yeah, the current rumor is that it's going to be a mobile hybrid kind of thing where you can take the controller away from the console and play it.
Isn't that kind of like the Wii U already?
It really is.
But further.
It's I've been picturing it more like the DS with a docking station. But the patents I saw actually were more about it was like temperature sensors and like biofeedback built into the controllers.
Again, they will not let that go.
No.
They've been talking about heart rate monitor and biofeedback sensing.
Which I still firmly believe would have made the best Tetris accessory ever.
Which is sense when you're stressed out and then ramp up the game.
Yeah, it was
accordingly.
like it was the little when you go to the doctors and they check your oxygen level and everything with the little finger clip the other end of it plugged into a Wii remote.
Yep. So whenever your heart rate gets up really really high, we just never give you that one freaking long piece. Just don't get it.
We're just trying to kill people here, you know.
Yep.
Death by Tetris could be worse.
That would be such a great accessory in so many different games. Just for like horror or something.
Oh yeah, well because I know Valve was talking about doing it with a Steam controller way back when, and they were like experimenting with integration with Left 4 Dead, where
really?
if your heart rate's calming down, they just throw a ton of zombies at you to stress you out really fast.
That'd be so good.
It's kind of odd though because I really don't find Left 4 Dead stressful.
What?
It's not really a Zen-like experience.
I do. I find it more like that. I find. I mean, there's intense situations you get yourself in where you have to save your friends and whatnot. But like the general waves and whatnot, kind of relaxing, just mowing down waves of zombies until like your friends are all pinned and it's the finale.
There's something wrong with you.
No, I've never looked at Left 4 Dead like a horror game. Like I've
I
never. I feel like it's scary. Like it's.
I wouldn't say it's scary. I would
It's
say
intense.
that it is.
It's like a B movie. It's it's a grindhouse kind of flick where it's like you said, it's just waves and waves of blood and guts, but it's not the cerebral horror of head crabs and ventilation.
Yeah, it's a
shafts.
different kind of intensity.
The thing for me with Left 4 Dead is it never feels like it hits its difficulty stride properly. It's either way too easy or there's too many guys on screen, and there's never sort of that I'm kind of handling this. It's either too much or too little all at once.
I've hit that stride before a few times with like certain groups. If you play with like a good group of people and like really know how to play, you can get in that spot where either nothing's happening or like those crazy waves happen, but they're manageable. Yeah, and it's only really like the finales are really the finalities. That's really the only dangerous bits is when the tank's out and there's multiple specials on the field to play.
Well, maybe something that would help it be a little more consistent is a vitality sensor.
But then all the sociopaths just destroy everyone.
Or get destroyed.
That's fair. The one thing they did say, there was a quote on Wii U production. They said they're going to keep making it into 2018. That's when they plan to stop.
But to what amount?
Yeah, I agree, because they even shot down. They lowered their production this year as well. Down to they plan to sell 800,000 units, probably because they have no big games coming out anymore. Except, Star Fox just came out, and that's pretty much it for the year, I think. But the quote on it that they did say is, the NX isn't really a replacement for either the DS or the Wii U. It's kind of so I think that kind of lends credibility to what you're saying of it being more of a dock hybrid thing or something.
I almost wonder if that ties into, they've been talking forever about this quality of life mindset that they're trying to apply to their devices and just everything they're releasing, and nobody's really seen anything of it yet, except for the vitality sensor was kind of part of that at the start. So was the balance board for the Wii and Wii Fit. And they've talked a lot about pushing towards this almost smoother integration of hardware and software into everyday life. Kind of like how your cell phone is, except they're not making a phone, I think.
They really want to be in the cell phone space, but they're just not, you know? Because the phone does start to cover a lot of those things at this point.
I mean, clearly they value the mobile experience just in the sense they've been the leader of handhelds since handhelds.
Yeah.
I mean, the original Game Boy set the market, and they've been pretty much leading that since then. And they always been trying to integrate the two and make them make sense. The Wii U was an attempt at that, I guess. It's interesting that they're going to kind of keep making and pushing on that.
Yeah, I just wonder if they'll actually find success in it, because I feel like it's too late for a concept like that with the way that smartphones have developed.
Yeah.
And I feel like they need to back off on this. Oh, it's an accessory. It's a thing to add to your thing, because that's what screwed up the Wii U.
Yeah.
Was people thought it was an add-on instead of something completely new and different. They just need to be no, this is a new console. Yeah. It's totally different. Knock it off with that.
I think they learned that lesson at least.
I would be incredibly surprised if the NX came out, officially launched as something like the Wii U 2.
Yeah.
You know? It wouldn't. They learned, I think, a very hard lesson with the general marketing and branding campaign for the Wii U.
They should just literally call it the new Nintendo.
I
think that'd be great.
You guys do remember the new Nintendo 3DS XL,
right?
But not the new Nintendo 3DS.
Yeah,
right.
It's
they're. Ugh.
I seriously think there's one game for that system that's Xenoblade Chronicle, and I don't think there's anything else that actually uses the capability.
Not requires it, but Majora's Mask does as well.
Yeah, I think you might get better texturing with that, but that's not a system seller, not at all.
That's
Monster Hunter,
a game from 20 years ago
as well.
Yeah, I mean that's basically that whole console concept is it's a full console version of the expansion pack.
Yeah,
for the Nintendo 64. Except instead of a $50 accessory, it's a $250 console, but it's an accessory.
Yep,
it's a.
You get the nub. Plan. You get the right nub. You can use as a camera, but
companies try to capitalize on their install base. So they were like, "Oh, you already have it, so just add to it."
Yeah.
They want you to have all of their things, and I think the Wii U taught that is just dangerous thinking, and I'm worried about what PlayStation's going to do with PlayStation VR, because they are actually doing their damnedest to position it as a new console that requires the old one to run, but it's a new console. It's not an addition, and everybody looks at it like this is an addition for my PlayStation, and they're not going to be. It's not going to be priced like an addition.
No.
Right.
They've already announced the price for it, right? Isn't it $400?
It's $400.
$450. Yeah.
Which is why they're really going out of their way to say that this is a new experience. You should look at it like a new console.
It's a new platform,
in addition to one that's already there. It just happens to use the other hardware as well.
It sounds a lot like the Sega CD. It had an entirely different processor and their entirely different way of presenting the games, but you still needed the old machine sitting there, and a lot, the price point was about the same with this. So we'll see where this goes.
I think comparing something to Sega CD is very scary for that.
I'm imagining PlayStation VR launching, and it's nothing but FMV titles like Super Shark 3D.
It's a scary comparison, but that's probably the most successful one that I can do. I mean, you also have the 3D, the 32X.
Yeah, no, I think you're spot on.
TurboGrafx 16, and then you've got the Famicom Disk System, and you got the Nintendo 64 DD.
I had heard that Sony was talking about actually developing PlayStation VR not only for the PS4 but as a peripheral for PC as well.
Really?
Yeah.
Shoot themselves in the foot, though.
I don't know. I mean, if they're not trying to necessarily compete with like Oculus or HTC, but I think if they were developing it as a platform that could be served as an accessory to multiple devices, that might increase the lifespan and longevity of it.
Yeah. Well, so isn't Sony's entire bread and butter with this that they sell you the hardware generally around cost, and then or even below cost, and then they sell the software licenses with us.
Sure.
But on a PC, they're not going to be able to go and get software licenses for this. So how are they going to go make any money off of that?
Well, it's also their main competitive advantage is getting people in the console space. I mean, throwing it out there as an option is an interesting idea, but it behooves them to get as many people playing that on their console as possible to build off the existing install base and to get more people into the install base, because one of the big things with lots of gaming, but particularly VR, that pushes it over this is kind of cool to this is amazing thing is when you can play with other people. And being in that's what the number one thing that consoles do kind of better right now is they make it very easy to play with your friends, to just jump in a game, be in, everybody's got the same hardware, everybody has the same experience, as opposed to trying to PC gaming where somebody has a slow computer playing with a fast computer, yada yada yada, everybody's worried about building their own PC, blah. Bottom line is they have that base, they have that ease of use potential. And trying to get people off of that and to doing something else with it is dangerous for them.
I think that, I mean, that's a very valid point. Again, the whole perk of developing for a console is it's a steady experience across the board. However, I do still think, especially if they're talking about moving it to the PC platform, there's a really easy solution to recouping costs through software sales, and that's developed for the PlayStation 4 and the PC.
I mean, making it an option I feel is not that big a deal, but if they're smart, they won't market it as such.
Oh no, I don't think they would either.
And even if they don't make it an option, somebody's going to hack together an option.
Oh,
to use a PlayStation VR set.
It's going to be day one. People are going to be hacking at this thing.
Yeah, it's going to be. You'll be able to use it on your PC for something.
Well, I think it has to use USB 3 because that's the only thing that the PS4s have on them right now that can do this. So it's going to be plugged into PC day one.
True. So I'm curious. Since we got on the topic of Sega CD and 32X and stuff, especially since PSVR is going to be a different platform add-on type thing, can we actually think of any like successful, useful add-ons that have existed?
Oh man, I mean,
I'm like, geez, has there actually been?
You've got to define your scope.
Yeah,
because if you're talking like any add-ons, the first incredibly successful add-on I would say is probably the Rumble Pack. For the 64, that was huge.
Rumble Pack was, I mean, that set the stage. I mean, there was no force feedback before that, and then every game after it uses it, and now if you don't have a controller, it doesn't have that, and you fucked it up.
Yeah, so let's limit it to hardware, like
console,
something that can play a game.
An additional platform?
I
mean, the thing that jumps to mind, obviously, is Guitar Hero. It's more of a peripheral than an add-on. I mean, like, I can't really...
I don't know. I see what you're getting.
I would actually argue that the Sega CD was a successful platform. It wasn't as successful as it could have been, but I think the 32X did more damage to Sega than the Sega CD did.
Well, it's because there was a very different strategy involved in both of those platforms. So like the Sega CD was like, we've got this new format. It's it's hot shit, and you can put all this content on it. So we got to jump on this, and they pushed out that platform with the intent of using the Genesis's power. Yes. Yeah, in conjunction with it. Whereas the 32X was developed as a pseudo upgrade path to the Sega Saturn, kind of. I mean, the idea was they wanted to give people 3D games ahead of that console's launch. They didn't want to wait for people to get their hands on the Saturn. Yeah. And it was just...
The Sega CD actually has a second CPU in there that's almost double the speed of the base Genesis one there. So it does have quite a bit more processing power in there, and it can actually push polygons around. It's kind of neat.
I know I've seen it. I mean, I've got one. I love that thing. Yeah. Sega CD's great. I feel it... Oh, I had a thought and I forgot where I was going. I was going to talk about how the platform, reasons why I feel it didn't succeed, and a big one of them, like it has all that extra power, but it didn't really go anywhere, and I think a big part of that reason was developers didn't know what to do with it. Which is, coming back to the PlayStation VR, could be a similar issue we'll have today.
Yeah, we're certainly going to see the same thing. I mean, if you take a look at the Sega CD, everyone tried to push these, horrible FMV games there. So
Come on, man. Don't be
no,
mean.
no, I have a copy of Sewer Shark, and it's awful, and we all know it.
I got words for you later. I'm not gonna get into an FMV fight right now. That's a losing battle.
Sewer Shark has its charm, but it is by no means a good game.
By FMV fight, I just picture you guys fighting in an FMV, like I'm watching an FMV.
I'm gonna get a copy of Street Fighter the movie, the game, and we can duke it out in that. That's about as close as I think you'll get.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see what they come up with for PlayStation VR specifically, since it can't really do the high level stuff. They're really going to be competing on ease of use and fun, fun, unique ideas, and hopefully some extended campaign stuff. They are going to need titles that can be played for 100, 200 hours, and you don't really see that much in the VR space right now. Almost everything's a demo, or there's a few AAA titles coming out right now, but they're few and far between. Like, most of them are just trying to wrap their head around what you can even do with it, and how do you make it interesting for 200 hours, like people dump into Call of Duty or Dark Souls or something.
I mean, that might be the strength of it, though. I mean, because they have that big constraint, they can't just like throw VR at you and go VR, like you're gonna like it because it's VR. They have to actually be pretty creative. Not that everybody's
doing
that
in the PC space, but I'm just more talking about like the general demo they're going after for console gamers of trying to take it mainstream.
Yeah,
while enthusiasts and people who play indie games and all that will seek these things out for unique experiences and try out like whatever's kind of new and exciting, a lot of people are stuck in kind of Madden, Call of Duty, and it's not even really talking shit on them. It's more just like when you bring it up in a general conversation, those are the things that they bring up every time.
Yeah.
So I think racing games are going to be the big one for VR. Racing with the full 3D perspective, be able to look around your car and see what's going on, I think is going to be the big killer app there. I had a while ago, I was able to go play one of the Gran Turismo games on a 3D TV, and just being able to see the distance and judge that with the turns coming up was incredible. And
absolutely.
being able to do that inside of a VR experience would be great.
You're absolutely correct. One of the very first things that I noted when I first hooked up the DK1 and I started playing a flight sim game in space where I'm flying around an asteroid field, one of the very first things I noticed was, holy crap, this is so easy to get around everything, because you can tell exactly how far away everything is.
Yeah.
It's not, there's always that little bit of a guessing game going on. When you're playing like a 3D game on your PC or console, you kind of know how far away stuff is. You think you're there. There's never that quite, like, just intuition. You don't really even get it until you might get it after you've played a game for 100 hours. But there's no that lizard brain animal intuition where when you're in VR, you drive up to it like you're in a car and you're like, oh, hey, look, there it is. And you can just smoothly fly around it without any prior experience or training or anything, because you know that. I mean, it's not hard to drive a car in real life because you can see exactly where the stop sign is and where the curb is and all that. You know it just instinctually by distance in relation to your personal space.
Yeah, and also not only with just the stereo vision, but also people have a much more expanded field of view. When you're looking around in VR, you can go and expand your field of view very quickly by just taking a look around, as opposed to a more traditional camera where you'd have to go and like mess with like a C-stick or whatever else to go and see where you're going.
Absolutely. That's almost impossible to do when you're like messing with a secondary stick to like look while you're driving, like in those games, or even like the old flight games. Your view is locked straight forward pretty much in almost all of them.
I was playing a flight sim a little while ago, and I had to use my mouse to go move the view around, and it was almost impossible to play it because the instrument panel was taking up 2/3 of the screen, and I was sitting there struggling just to go keep the instruments correct and then actually look around and see what the heck I was doing.
Yep, no, it's interesting. I played a game called War Thunder in VR a while back. It's a World War II like fighter jet, like not jets, but like fighter planes, like machine gun battles and whatnot. Yep. And it's very easy with being able to look around just to keep track of like who you're fighting with. Like you can be like flying while you're like looking over your shoulder and pulling back around to see and keeping them in view. Whereas when you're not doing that, it's very easy to like lose somebody the second you're off your screen. You're like, where'd they go? You're whipping around trying to find them. But when you're just tracking them with your eyes, and you can just kind of keep pulling while you're going, and you're right. Yeah, you never lose them. That's what Eve Valkyrie is playing with that in a big way, where they're actually tying that to how the weapons even handle.
Yeah.
So you don't even have to fire straight forward like in most games. You still have the ability to fire straight forward, but your missile lock-ons and how you actually fight other people is based on gaze tracking, as well as what you're selecting and where your ship is facing. So you can be flying in one direction and basically be looking over your shoulder and lock missiles on somebody because you're looking at them, and it makes the entire dogfighting experience a different thing.
Yeah, that's actually real technology where they have the joint helmet-mounted queuing system in the F-16s right now, where you can go do an off-boresight shot like that, which is kind of neat. So it's sort of funny seeing the games sort of adopt that real-life tech.
I haven't played the new Star Fox, but Anthony was describing something similar to that. I guess now in the new Star Fox, your guns are not locked directly in front of your R-wing. You can actually aim around with the other controller. Like while you're flying with the one stick, you rotate the Wii U controller, and that's your gunner sight. So there's instances in the game where you're flying around a boss, and you're basically flying around them and shooting off to your right at them, like as you're flying around them. I thought that was kind of an interesting thing. I didn't even know it was going to be part of the game, which is now out, and I didn't even realize it was like a thing until it was out.
Yeah, I think that's the core mechanic for that game. It is the sort of the gunner position that you've got on there.
Did you guys not see the short film they made for it, or like the Star Fox short?
I did actually watch that little.
I mean,
I saw the fan-made cartoon.
Yeah,
that
they
came
didn't.
out.
It was amazing.
Is that what you're talking about? The cartoon?
The 3D one?
What?
There's a 3D animated short. Some really big studio made it.
Nintendo put it out to like promote the game.
Yeah,
I think it was Production IG, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. They sounded popular. I don't know who they actually are, but
the guys who did Ghost in the Shells is who you probably know
okay,
from.
yeah. It was, it's very slickly produced.
I have heard nothing about this.
Yeah,
I've not seen that one.
I watched the cartoon though.
The fan one.
Yeah, there's a fan-made Star
I haven't
Fox.
seen that one.
Oh man,
The 3D one is very well done, but it's very I guess canonical to the Star Fox lore. Whereas the fan-made one is just wonderful and insane. In
the fan one is very much like it belongs on Adult Swim. It's
interesting.
Yeah,
it's good.
It's like old school, like anime style, and
More,
it was really interesting.
Sort of American, very low budget cartoon.
It's very Masters of the Universe, I'd say.
Yeah,
It's a very good comparison.
So I started watching it, and I was sitting there going like, oh, this is going to be stupid, sort of goofy throwback. And then as you watch it, like, I got pretty invested in that. I was like, all right, where's episode 2? Like, I need to go watch more of this here. So,
yeah, I do hope they actually make another one.
They are actually.
They're working on it, and I think they're going to keep working on it until they get shut down by Nintendo.
Which will probably be pretty soon, seeing as they got pretty popular.
Oh, we got real popular. When I checked in, I saw it for the first time yesterday, and it already had like close to 100,000 views and like 30,000 likes, and it's making the rounds
all over it, saying this is a parody, this is a fan made. We don't own the license to these.
Please go
buy the real stuff from them, and links to the actual official merch. So who knows?
Yeah, what was the name of it? Does anyone remember?
A Fox in Space.
Yes.
That was it?
That's the name of the show, A Fox in Space. Episode 1, Don't Call Me Star Fox.
Yeah, my name's not Star Fox.
That was good. I like how he kept harping on like the phrasing of people in that sense. He's like, God, for the last time. My name is Fox.
Cool, be cool. And the guy's like, hey, you Star Fox? He's like, oh, goddamn.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I also like the... Can I see your legs?
Legs.
I don't judge. Whatever's happening here, I fully support it.
It was pretty funny.
Yeah, that whole thing was real good. But yeah, I didn't know Nintendo made a thing either. So
they don't get into the robot legs in that one.
No,
I wish they did.
That's a failure.
Yeah, just based on these jokes you guys are saying, which I don't totally get, it sounds way better than the Nintendo one.
It's pretty good. Yeah,
it is just the most wonderful. How much like crazy, terrible 80s cartoons, but it's actually really well done.
I was gonna say the Nintendo produced short is very much for like either people coming into the series now. It's for kids. It's Nintendo's main target. Young teenagers. Early preteens.
Me.
Whereas the whereas the fan made one is definitely something for people who have been like fans of Star Fox since the Super Nintendo days.
Yeah.
Like they love the original one. There's a lot of like throwback references to that and the 64 one.
Yeah.
It's not canonical, but it's much more an homage, I think, to the series than the new Nintendo short.
It's very irreverent and almost racy at points too, but it's a lot of fun. They definitely don't hold back with their jokes, and the series actually really shines for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was good.
let's keep talking about that. This is pretty great, right?
A lot of
Let's just
Nintendo
watch it
talk
on the
today.
podcast. Can we just watch it?
I mean, I could just fire it up and we'd spend 13 minutes watching it. But, we've been talking a lot about 20-year-old games, like Majora's Mask and Nintendo and all that stuff.
Speaking of Zelda, though, I'm just glad that they officially announced that that'll be an NX launch title, because, it should be. I know, but I'm just glad they said it,
When they announced that at E3, I think everybody knew.
It's going to be playable at E3 this year.
The only game they're showing as well, yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of sad.
But
They've had some
what's
great
weird
3DS
is...
games at all?
Yeah, that was surprising.
Wow.
Wait, what's that?
No 3DS games. For
Yeah,
E3.
no. They're... I don't know. What
They've been
Nintendo's doing.
weird about E3 for a while,
Yeah.
though.
Yeah, they kind of don't
Past-
seem to really like it or support it.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of developers really don't like or support E3 anymore.
I've gone to E3 twice. It sucks.
Yeah.
It's cool to an extent, but it's just crowded and it's so like corporate feeling and everything's
Yeah.
kind of like gross to an
That's
extent.
sort of what it's always been. It's just one
Yeah.
big marketing
It's a
machine.
trade show.
Oh
That's
god,
how they
yeah,
are.
absolutely. I mean, and yeah, so it's expected as it is, but I understand why like developers got to a point where they're just like, this just takes too much of our time and money, and
I think the
ugh.
big shift too is you've got so many conventions now.
Yeah.
you got like PAX, you've got Indiecade, you've got
PSX now.
yeah,
probably way less of a financial and time investment for them as well.
absolutely, and there's more focus on like the games themselves, and the developers usually show up to these things too. Whereas E3, it's always been you send your PR people and you send the flashy videos. And
it's about the show. It's about the
Yeah.
booths. It's about
those are the ones
dressing
where they
people.
hire
and-
actors to go. Be
Yeah,
like, you're
exactly.
Pretend you're an employee for Activision for a weekend.
Yep.
And in the pre like general internet populist days, I mean that was the only thing you had, which is why it was such a big deal.
Yeah.
And why I think in the last decade or so, it's very much been kind of like E3.
Yeah.
Uh,
It's just kind of annoying at this point.
yeah.
Yeah, I remember when I was a kid. I mean, you lived on video game magazines, and every year it was like there was just E3.
Yeah.
and you were just like
That
got
was like
the,
a special issue.
It was a
that would
special-
come out.
like- like,
This is-
seriously,
this is the E3
everybody would
'cause
do their
it had all
E3,
the news
yeah.
came out in that one.
Yeah, it was in Game Informer. You had the big E3 issue, and that was every game you were going to play for the next year was in that series.
Yeah, it was like it was exciting, really. I mean, as a kid, I was like, I don't know if I'd been an adult at that time, I'd probably been like this bullshit. But
Well,
as a kid, it was
the one thing that
fun.
E3 did, which we don't need anymore, is E3 was the introduction to everything, and everybody waited for all the new stuff to come out there.
Oh,
so
yeah.
that's what you would get. And nowadays, developers will go post things. You'll talk to the devs directly on Reddit or whatever. So I don't think you necessarily need E3. So
Again,
much anymore.
it goes back to being from the day and age when it was like paper trades is where you learned everything.
Yeah.
Like you said, you had the E3 issues, and it was like double the size of your usual monthly mag.
And it wasn't even just that mag though, like because
yeah.
that was the whole point, is it brought them all together. Like so
Uh-huh.
all the reporters for all the magazines showed up, and they all got to play all the new stuff, and they all wrote their own opinions on it. So even if you got Game Informer, you go read Nintendo Power, and like what did they say about E3? It was all in there, and yeah, that was the key. But now
Good times.
I'm gonna guess that Nintendo Power said a lot about Nintendo. But-
everything else is pretty weak.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. All those reasons. That's why E3 used to be cool.
So what's cool now? How is PAX?
PAX was sweet.
What was so sweet about it?
Uber Watch. So there were special Uber cars at PAX that were Lamborghinis, other big fancy cars that I wouldn't know the names of, and they were skinned to look like Overwatch cars.
At first, I thought you mispronounced that. But
So they were called Uberwatch cars. So there was like a Lamborghini skinned like Tracer from Overwatch. So from Overwatch. Damn it! So it looked like it would be like her Lamborghini or something with like the yellow and gold and stuff like that. And so like randomly when you called an Uber to go to PAX, you might get an Uberwatch car and pull up in a Lambo to PAX. So
Did you get one of those?
I did not. No.
That's what they told everybody.
So I guess
those
it
things
wasn't
went right
that
into a
cool.
garage.
No. So like when I went to the Twitch party, like there was a big Twitch streamer. She came out like you just heard the Lambo pull up, it like revved its engine, and then she like walked out of the Lambo. It's like what?
So you look at it from the outside and you think it's all cool and stuff, and then you get inside and it's just like a Toyota kit. Like,
Yeah.
Well, how many does a Lambo seat?
One or two.
One or two, right?
Yeah.
So what if you got like three people and they show you like, Oh shit.
See you later.
Yeah.
Well, I usually say how many people you're gonna have. So I guess that was a trick. Just put one person in the Uber and then like just keep trying until the Uber.
All three of you call an Uber. And there's 3 cars.
I think if the Lamborghini shows up, you're allowed to ditch your friends to go in the Lamborghini.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, you get a free pass on that one. Although your Uber bill is going to be a lot more if you keep going for that.
Yeah,
there are companies around here that do that car rentals for like exotics. Specifically that if you just want to rent like a Ferrari for the day.
Yeah, I rode one over.
I saw somebody do that. Yeah, somebody up in Toronto does that, and the only reason I noticed because I almost hit him.
BGS showcase idea.
Yeah, there you go.
We roll up in Lambos.
We should actually talk about this once.
I rented a Dodge Viper. That was a lot of fun. That car wants to kill you. It has no traction control.
Most of those cars do. Like you're not allowed to touch the gas pedal without spinning out.
The Viper does not. The Viper has no electrics in the whole thing. It has no anti-lock brakes. There's no traction control. There's no nothing. It's manual transmission and your foot. You can get a lot of trouble with it.
Well, before we get into Buffalo car space here, somebody dropped the BGS showcase, so I feel now would be a perfect time to highlight that. Assuming this is going to get out before it happens. Yeah? Okay. For anybody who's listening, on May 14th, it's a Saturday, we're going to be having our first official showcase. It's the Spring Party. It's going to be a big event. We're going to have a lot of games being showcased by local developers and the developers here. Basket raffles, cash bar, DJ Charizard. It's gonna be a really good event. So definitely make it out if you can.
Yeah, it's gonna be sweet. I'm looking forward to it. I'm sure pretty much everybody in this room will have something to show there. Probably. It's definitely gonna be fun. So, speaking of showing stuff, we had a jam this weekend.
Yeah, no, we did have a jam over the weekend where the theme was the Wild West, and some very Wild West games were made.
Some very strange things were made.
We had, let's see, I made a Vomit Comet, which is very Wild Westy. Yeah, so I made somebody was talking about gold mining, and then someone started talking about like mine carts.
Yeah. And
then somebody said Temple of Doom, and I'm like, wait a minute, why don't I just make Temple of Doom a multiplayer game? That's going to be easy to do in a weekend, right? And
everything is easy to do in a weekend when you're brainstorming it.
Oh my god, yes.
How did it go?
I did make a railcard game. It's single player, but I made a procedurally generated railcart rail shooter. So it's like a real rail shooter. But it throws you in a little mine cart, and it carts you around this track made of like 7 different independent pieces that are just randomly assembled. And you fly along and you shoot at these duck targets all around, and it's just a high score kind of race up until your cart flies off the tracks.
Yeah. The fun thing about watching it is the cart track is truly random, so you don't ever actually level with the horizon at any point in time. So it is truly the Vomit Comet. You spend half of it like inverted, going backwards. It's insane.
There's absolutely nothing physically accurate about this. It's not like your standard that starts on the ground and kind of goes up and down. No, it's right off the bat. It's just like twisting, doing corkscrews and loop-de-loops, and you can kind of see ahead as you start usually. You can see where the track kind of spirals and spaghetti's out of control, and if you know what you're in for, seeing that just kind of makes it work a little.
You're sort of riding this Gordian knot. It's pretty gross in the best way possible.
Was it a VR title?
Not yet.
I think if you put that game in VR, you have to have a barf bag go with it.
There was a lot of suggestion before people had seen it. Be like, oh, that sounds awesome. You should give it Oculus support. And me, having been playing it the whole weekend, was just kind of like, no.
Like, even on the 2D screen, this is
bad.
Rough. Yeah. I know even just like showing it on the projector, there was some people, it's like, I gotta look away.
It was definitely causing discomfort at the end of the weekend showing it with all the other games, which I'm kind of proud of. Honestly.
Yeah, it's
pretty awesome.
Yeah, it looked really good, and then the lighting actually you had that looked really good too.
That's funny you say that because it was totally just the stock Unity lighting.
They must have improved it because it looked really good.
The only thing I added, which I think everyone should add, is linear fog. Just enable fog on your projects, so it kind of gives things a little bit better sense of depth. It's like pro tip for free right there.
Yep. No, we did the same thing with my virtual gunslinger game when I was trying to get it set up. That's the first thing that Brian did. He's like, that doesn't quite look right. Let me touch this, and he basically opened up lighting, put in linear fog, set it out to a nice little distance, just kind of offset the background against the foreground. makes it pop a little bit more.
It's a good realism visual cue because I noticed it this morning going into work. If you live on like kind of a straight street and you look down as far as you can, you'll notice that things further away actually kind of start to almost blend in with the atmosphere, like with the sky color, just a little. It's very subtle, but it's there. And by default, any 3D game usually in a standard engine like Unity doesn't do that. You can enable it with like 2 clicks of a button, and it leaps and bounds improves your visual aesthetic.
Yep, and he even put like a little bit of like a yellowish tint on it that kind of almost made it feel like haze, like sunniness. Like it gave the backgrounds more of like a warmer feel versus the stuff that was closer. It made them a little bit more crisp, made them pop out against the background, even though all the objects were the same. It's a really nice little visual cue trick, and like you said, super easy to do once you know it's there.
Very cool.
So
what did you make?
Yeah.
So we made a game called Saloon Simulator. So I'm looking forward to this game coming out real soon. It's called Valhalla, and the developers have delayed it for a couple of months. So I was sitting there at Game Jam. I was like, I kind of want to make a bartender simulator because their game was a Game Jam game. Why can't I do something crazy like that too? So this is a 3D physics-based bartending simulator where you have to go and pick up the various bottles and glasses with the 6 Sense controller, which is quite a lot like sort of the Oculus or almost like the enhanced Wii controller. And various interesting characters will kind of saunter into your bar.
Saunter's a good word.
Yeah. The animations, and you should really go check this out, they are just absolutely wonderful. By wonderful, I mean janky as all hell. So a bunch of really weird folks jump into your bar, order a drink, and mostly they yell at you because they didn't have time to actually get the drink code all the way running. So they just always get mad at you for whatever it is you pour them.
I think you're neglecting to discuss the key feature of this particular game, though.
Oh, so the key feature in this is pretty much everything is destructible. I spent a long time trying to make everything explode because I wanted to have the game end where everybody gets really angry and just shoot up the bar. So I spent a long time building out all sorts of goofy explodable objects that you can go shoot and then just go, explode into a million different pieces.
It turned out nice because you try to pick things up and nothing really works the way you want it to. I'm not trying to knock it because it's
that was entirely the point of the game. It's a very sort of surgeon simulator kind of experience, but we got everything explode, and then I spent a long time making sure that bottles slid across the bar just right.
That is a nice touch. That was good.
Slide across the bar just right, and then never use it in gameplay.
No, then they explode. But there is a physics material called beer physics sitting in there that makes sure that it gets just right.
Well, everybody knows no game is complete without beer physics.
This is entirely true.
Actually, I think that's the name of my last job title. I was the beer physics guy.
Yeah, and by the time you hear this, you'll be able to download these on itch.
Yeah, this is true.
If I do my job right, yes. By the time this podcast goes up, you can download these games.
Fingers crossed.
No, it was pretty great. I particularly enjoy the janky animations of the characters coming through the saloon doors. They kind of like do this bow-legged, old-timey like walk with like kicking out their heels and stuff, and it's very funny. And the voice acting comes through very nice, where they kind of start berating you for not pouring them the right stuff, no matter what you do.
Yeah, the guys who did the voices were just violently funny, and I had to go throw out a bunch of lines that were really funny because we could not keep a straight face in the sound booth. So,
which we're in right now.
Yes, we are.
But I will make 2 suggestions, and they're really the same suggestion, just twice. The characters need to react to being punched. Because you can reach them with your virtual hands, and you can, with the Hydra, like make your little virtual hand make a fist. And then you can just reach out and punch them if they're being annoying. And also, much more importantly, they need to respond to being booped on the nose. So when they're yelling at you, you just go, boop.
Well,
and watch them flip out and pull guns on you.
One thing I'm playing with right now is I'm trying to get the Kinect to go and talk to Blender so I can go and do some motion capture for this, which will hopefully speed up some of the development time because I didn't get the actual characters or animations until Sunday morning of the Game Jam, so it was a pretty big rush to go slam everything in there at the very end. Like every Game Jam game is.
Like every single one of our games.
Yep.
Yeah, it's just the way that it works. Yeah.
What did you make? Futscher.
I made a couple games actually.
What?
I made one, like, I guess I'll call real game, and I made another game that was just like an interesting idea that I couldn't shake, so I spent a few hours working on it.
Was it the snowplow simulator?
No.
In the Wild West?
Quiet. That's not yet. It's coming.
Tumbleweed Simulator.
We talked about Tumbleweed Simulator. No, I made. I worked with a few guys on a. We didn't really come up with a good title for it. We're still working on it. It was the working title was Son of a Gun. It's an 8-player top-down shooter. It's a twin stick with limited ammo, and it's like a capture the flag or like deathmatch setup. So picture like a single screen, real big, with 8 people, 4 on each side. Each person gets a revolver with 6 bullets, and once you're out of bullets, you're out of bullets. And then you also have a melee attack, and you can like dive roll and try to get behind cover. And it's just kind of a arcadey little team-based shooter thing. I think it came out pretty great, and I actually want to polish up some of it because I think it's really fun with a bunch of people. You can play it with 2 and up, but it really shines when you have, I don't know, more than 4, I would say. We're working around some other ideas to try to shrink it down so 4 people can play it and have fun with it. But yeah, 4-on-4 is definitely a lot of fun with it. It worked pretty well. I don't know. It's a jam game, like all things.
I thought it came out really well. The fact that you were able to get 8 players all playing simultaneously on one machine, each with their own 360 pad, running around shooting each other, and it runs smoothly. That was pretty impressive.
I mean, we tried to keep everything as simple as possible, and thankfully some of our input code we wrote before we tested with more than 4 people. And so on Saturday, that was a big question mark hanging over our heads of, like, what's going to happen when we plug in the 5th? Let's find out. And, you know, for once in our lives, it actually worked.
So was it 4 wireless and 4 wired? How do you actually get 8 onto the computer?
We had hubs. So it was actually like a bunch of wired, a bunch of wireless, all mixed kind of together. We're aiming to hopefully also be able to make it mix Xbox 360 controller and Xbox One controllers, which it can't currently do right now. It really just works with the 360. The Xbox Ones are a little iffy.
Did you not go with in control, writing your own thing?
Oh, we're using in control.
Interesting.
Yeah. We use in control with actions to run everything and identify the players. And in control has a default max of 10. You can increase it manually if you want to dig into there, but I don't want to go like code deep right now when we're talking about silliness.
No, we need 20-player couch co-op. It'll be great.
Well, the biggest hurdle to making it to test it and making it work was actually getting 8 people with 8 controllers like together and like to sit it down and make it happen. It's actually a lot of wires when you have wired controllers and a lot of people to be standing around a single screen.
Well, I've heard you can't actually do because a wireless adapter only can do up to 4 gamepads, so you can't actually do 2 wireless adapters and 8 wireless doesn't actually work.
So we had 3 or 4 wireless and the rest were wired.
Right.
Sometimes we had like 5 or 6. The Xbox One controller wireless receiver actually defaults to receiving 8 controllers.
I didn't know there was an Xbox One wireless receiver.
Yeah, there is. It's actually, it looks like a big fat thumb drive. It's not like the ones for 360 that are like a dongle that have the little receiver. It's like a big fat stick.
It's still ugly though.
Yeah, it's a block. It's a black block. But it actually, in the spec, like on Amazon, it says connects to 8 controllers directly. So we actually were aiming for that first because we're like, that'll have 8 in one USB port. Like, we'll be able to do that. That'll be great. Yeah, we ended up just using a ton of wired controllers. But with a ton of wired controllers, it actually worked. And I think it's actually kind of fun, too. Initially, it was super fast, and the games were over in like 2 seconds. And we slowed it down a ton, and I think it became much better for it. Like, it's not a tactical game. It's still an arcadey little thing. The games only last like 20 seconds to 30 seconds. But it's a fun 30 seconds of people shooting off their bullets and then being like, oh no, I have no ammo. And there's pickups and that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's a fun little thing. And then kind of on the side of that, I made a VR target shooting, like a skeet shooting, target shooting game. Using 2 revolvers where you shoot targets and pop-up targets and ducks and gas canisters and some of the bottles that they had been working on a little bit.
How did you make time for 2 games at a game jam?
The one game that I just described, I was working on it with 3 other people, so I had a little bit of time in between while I was waiting for some art or trying to figure out the next steps, and I just kind of was monkeying with this other one on the side. And this target shooting game is really, I probably only spent a couple hours coding it, and the rest is all an amalgamation of other things that I've done in the past and just rewiring everything to all play nice together. So it's in VR. It's using the 6 the Razer Hydra. Yeah, you got 2 revolvers, One of the things that I did after the jam was over is I modified it so you can actually like fan the hammer with one gun. So you actually have to use the thing and flick the stick back to cock the hammer and then shoot the gun. So that's pretty fun. And then I added a bunch of silliness last night too, or 2 nights ago. That's more to come on that. But yeah, so those are the things that I made this weekend. It was fun. What did you guys make this weekend?
I made music out of town at a gig. That's why I was not part of the jam.
Yeah, actually, we had some really great music come out of the jam. Anthony made some really cool stuff, and Tyson made a really great track for the Saloon Simulator. That was really good, and I know.
The One Last Shot of Bourbon is the track name, and it's really, really well done.
Yeah, it's really well put together, and Tin made some really intense music for. There's another game that got made called
Badass Cactus.
Badass Cactus. It's a 2D platform where you play as a cactus, and it's
bananas.
It's crazy. It's crazy town. It's super fast and loud and bombastic and nutty. And you can do the little thing where you hide. You just hit down and your person's just a cactus, and they walk in front of you. And you let go, he like pops out, and his arms are guns. And it's a wild little crazy thing. A few other games got made. Don made a Twine game. It was very funny, very cool.
Yep. There were 30 fart jokes in that game.
Yeah, at least. No spoilers on the story, but it ends with fart magic saving the day.
Sounds classy.
It's pretty awesome. We had another game called Grit that was about a cowboy that just wanders through town and gets pickups, and as he gets pickups, his mouth gets contorted and he grows a giant beard. Like the more stuff you pick up, the beard grows, using some absurd physics that just ended up spinning like pinwheels at one point. It was pretty wild. I feel like I'm missing some other stuff. For a few dogs more.
Yeah, that was incredibly well polished. Like that looked like you spent like a week on that.
Yeah, so that was made by TJ, who's working on Fists Elimination Tower, and what was Slow Crab to the Coffee Machine.
Yeah, that's a comic called Berserker.
Yeah, no,
check out Berserker.
He's an incredibly talented guy, and he slammed together this game all by himself. I think, with the exception of the music. That's a sort of auto runner 2D platformer where you control 2 characters at the same time.
Yeah, it's very Sunset Riders meets Mario and Yoshi.
Yeah, Mario and Yoshi is like the way to describe this. Where you've got one character that's like a wolf, and then a character riding the wolf that's a little prairie dog with a cowboy hat and a revolver. And they both jump independently, but the prairie dog can jump off the wolf, so you can it's sort of a double jump. And you can use it to get around some weird obstacles and get different pickups and things.
Yep, and he made it to play with 2 people on one controller, so one person plays the dog, or they can jump or bark, and then to get to the higher platforms, the other person who's playing the prairie dog on their back, like waits for the dog to jump, and then at the height of their jump, they jump off them to get up to the top. And the little prairie dog has this big exaggerated gun. It's pretty great.
I think that was it for jam games. I'm going to feel really shitty if I forgot something.
I know, right?
Well, like I said, they should be all on itch.io very soon on the BGS account as some sort of bundle for everybody to download and enjoy.
Yep.
Yeah, another good weekend spent here. It's crazy when you get 8 games made in 48 hours. It's pretty wild. Always have those experiences of being like, oh, this will be easy, and then, oh my god, it's never gonna happen, and then, holy shit, it happened, and we pulled something together, and maybe it's not completely done, but it's pretty sweet, and it's a thing now.
I was gonna say, I was pretty pleased personally with how the jam turned out, because this is the first one I've participated in, I feel, in like quite a while, and I made a whole thing in a weekend, and I was thinking about it today, and this is the first video game I've like completed in longer than I'd probably like to admit. So it was nice. It was good.
Did you work alone or in a team?
I worked on a team. I did all the code myself. Like all the coding and design was all me. But Joshua Smith did all the art and in-game assets. And then Phil Lowry did all the music, which I didn't even realize he did. And he did a really good job with that.
He did a bunch of music this weekend.
He did the music for my game. He did it for TJ's game. And I think he did some other stuff too. Mm-hmm. But yeah, no, it was, I've been getting back into Unity already, and so cranking something out in that in 48 hours was a good experience.
Somebody mentioned this, I think it was even Tim he was talking about. He made some cool music this weekend, and he was he tweeted out a thing along the lines of, the game jams are becoming like new benchmarks where to like see where you're at with what you're doing. Like, you keep working on your craft and you get better at what you're doing, and the jams are almost like the test, right? It's like, you've been doing all this stuff. All right, now do it. Like, stop messing around and just do some stuff and see what happens.
That's a cool way to look at it.
And the better you get at it, the more you do it, like the easier it kind of becomes. You can see the progress and like a tangible result from the weekend. It's not like, oh, I took a test, I answered all those multiple choice things, and I passed. Like, whatever. No, it's here's the game that I made in 2 days. What's up? Play
or 2 games in 2 days. Like somebody here.
Well, it's true. I mean, to be fair, like that's something that I couldn't have done 3 years ago.
Oh God, yeah, absolutely.
I would have spent the entire weekend just trying to make the gunslinger thing, and barely probably even gotten as far as I did. Yep. As opposed to just doing it on the side, along with this other kind of what I consider the better project.
Yeah, that wasn't in jest. I'm impressed for sure.
Yeah, but it also forced me to play with some fun ideas that's part of why I added some crazy stuff to it the other night, because it's something I've been thinking about doing, and just hadn't done it. And so I was like, all right, well, it's jam, now I'm doing it. Like, what? There's no sitting around like thinking about it, just make it happen.
The fun thing about this jam for me was the first jam I did, I made very sure that I knew that I could go and actually write what I did. And this game was like bartending simulator. And then, about an hour into it, I was like, oh crap, I'm doing fluid dynamics, and I have no idea how to do this. And I managed to sort of, bod something together in time to get it to actually work. So you can now pour liquid from one glass into the other. So that was a lot of fun, not having to worry about, can I do this? As sort of, what do I want to do? I'm confident enough that I can kind of probably make it work. So that was a lot of fun.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, when the test analogy isn't even really right, because it's also, you learn so much in the weekend. Like, no matter how many times you've done it, you're always walking away on Sunday like, oh, I totally just did this other thing I never thought I could do, and I just did it. And now that's in my tool belt.
So this begs the question, when is BGS Jam 7?
Whenever you're around, so you can actually come to this one.
That's Friday, by the way.
We'll probably be aiming for something fall.
Probably late summer, early fall.
Yeah, late summer, early fall. Summers gets, it gets nice out. Things will slow down a little bit. Well, at least we'll try to slow down. People will take vacations and stuff. So, but yeah, won't wait longer than that. So soon enough.
So we kind of grazed over it quickly. Was there anything else you want to talk about with PAX?
So there was this thing called Uberwatch.
Aside from Uberwatch.
So I did all this traveling. I talked to these people, but dude, these cars, though.
These cars, man. Though? The car I didn't even ride.
These cars. I mean, there were some really great booth setups. Ark, if you guys heard of Ark Survival Evolved.
Yeah.
It had a gigantic Tyrannosaurus Rex, like 2.5 stories tall, I guess, maybe taller. You had to take a staircase to the top of it to take a picture. So it was just this massive T-Rex, and that was awesome.
Could you take a slide out of its mouth or something once you got to the top?
I wish. But no, I didn't have any intestines.
Free idea for the Ark booth next year at PAX East. Slide out the T-Rex mouth.
And then, of course, League of Legends had their massive stage where they held tournaments for the weekend. So they were like, the whole booth, that thing was set up. It was just crazy amounts of people there. And right across from the League of Legends stage was the Overwatch stage where they were having massive tournaments, which was really cool because that area was that was its own convention in itself, in the expo hall. But yeah, it was a great time. I mean, I went there as a Twitch streamer, and so what was really cool was Twitch had a massive presence. I mean, the Twitch area was as big as the Blizzard or Riot area. So we actually had a private partner lounge, which was kind of like this awesome zoo to stand in, where everyone else kind of looked because they couldn't get in, but they would see all the streamers inside. So there were a lot of famous people in there, which was sweet. Why are you laughing?
Chris is falling apart.
I'm just picturing this is like, look, honey, there's the live streamers.
That's what it was.
Can I pet one, Daddy?
I didn't notice until the second day. I didn't notice until the second day because what we had was this really sweet spot with couches and free drinks and water and Red Bull and all that stuff to keep us alive. But it was kind of it was surrounded and there was glass. And so when you're on the outside and you're not allowed in, when I was on the outside, it looked like I was looking in on this kind of cool human exhibit. So that was
Isn't that what you guys do every day?
That is kind of what we do every day.
This is an IRL live stream. Yeah.
That is kind of what we do every day.
Yeah,
but,
that's exactly how they set it up. They just put they put up little fake wall cameras 16:9 holes.
Well,
in the wall.
there's big vinyl decals that look like television sets.
What they should do is put a bar in there, but people on the outside should have to pay for your drinks. So you have to perform, and then if you're good enough, they'll buy you a drink.
That would be awesome.
And then over the loudspeaker, the overlay music plays.
Yeah.
It's like some really weird chat happening on the side that people tweet at,
Just one guy sitting in a smaller thing, just being the head.
But everybody outside has to wait 30 seconds before they can react to anything that happens inside.
20 seconds.
The glass is actually special glass. It slows down light for 30 seconds until it comes through the other side.
Free ideas, Twitch. Free ideas.
So that was cool. They had a massive presence. They had a stage too where they were having streamers, famous streamers, come on and play games live. That was being streamed, but the crowd around that was also very cool.
So what did you play on stage?
I'm not that big yet. Yet.
The keyword is yet.
Yeah.
Yet.
The coolest thing for me though in all of PAX was that the last time I went to PAX East was when I was in college. I was a senior in college, I believe. And so I was not a game developer. Back then I was just doing art, animation, and computer science. And I didn't even know I wanted to be a game developer back then. But I remember going to PAX and be like, someday I'm going to grow up and, be one of these guys. And what was crazy about going there now, so that was, I guess 5-6 years ago. And so going there now, being on the other side of having a game on Steam, it was walking up to indie game devs, being introduced to them by the amazing Wayne, and then being like, "Oh yeah, Skyhook, I've heard of that." And it's like, "Wait, what? You know who I am?" And so that was really cool. So it was kind of a really interesting, kind of dream come true kind of a deal.
That is really cool. It's definitely quite the shift too. I
Very
can't even
much.
imagine what that would feel like.
I mean, I still felt like a baby everywhere I went. I was still a baby game dev, and when I was around the Twitch streamers, I felt like I was a baby streamer. But I was a baby streamer now, playing with the big boys, so that was kind of cool.
It's funny. I was actually semi-related to that. Not related to games at all, but there's a good piece on NPR I was reading about. It was an interview with Tom Hanks, of all people, and he was talking about the whole kind of imposter syndrome and how it never really goes away no matter the level of success you get.
Never.
So, I mean, you got, Tom Hanks talking about how he's worried people are going to come out and, find out he's a phony. It's I can't imagine, going just the progression of that as a game developer, especially with the industry becoming bigger and bigger. That could become more of a concern. Yeah, I've been suffering from imposter syndrome my whole life. Even right now on this podcast, I feel like I'm an imposter. They're going to realize I don't know what I'm saying soon. But it's tough. You just got to lie to yourself and tell yourself you're awesome.
I noticed.
Fake it till you make it.
The theme of this podcast is growth. Yeah.
What?
Learning in the game jams, learning in the PAX. It's all good.
I didn't know we had themes.
I'm proud of all of you.
We should. It's like the secret word. Anybody says it, we all got to scream.
No, it's funny how sometimes when you sit down and do these, there's kind of a consistent theme here and there that kind of permeates throughout, and it's exciting.
We're talking about growth as developers and growth in
no,
the
that's exactly what I'm talking
industry,
about,
Sure.
It's,
Nintendo lack of fiscal growth. And,
So for all of you jerks who have not already considered going to PAX Prime, I would look you in the eyes right now and tell you to go to PAX Prime.
like me.
he was actually just looking at me right in the eyes.
Well, so you're the only one right across from my microphone, so I'm just saying all my things to you, but I mean it for you guys.
It's appropriate. I get it.
I need something to look at. There's no camera in here. I'm not used to this human interaction.
I don't know who to talk to.
I'm not looking at a weird little 2 eyes and a mouth drawn on the camera.
I had to look at 4 different people. What is happening?
Yeah, for you guys who don't know, my webcam actually has eyeballs on it, that I drew in a little smiley face. It was advice I got from another streamer where it's really awkward just staring a lens in the eyes. So give your webcam eyes and a smiley face. So when you look at it, you're talking to your buddy Cammy. I made up the last part. His name is Cammy.
You should actually get a picture of Cammy on your camera.
Oh my
See?
God. Inception.
Another free idea.
Yeah, you're full
I'm
of
just
free
full
ideas
of them today.
What else you got for us?
I mean, I work in marketing, so it's kind of a given.
Yeah.
I'm just giving away trade secrets here.
That's
Take
fair.
your pick.
That's fair.
Fair.
It should be your next little emote logo.
Cammy. Yes.
Oh, that sounds like fun. I mean, you're going to Indiecade tomorrow. You're only
flying
back from PAX right back out to Indiecade.
Yeah, I didn't realize how hard that was going to be to do. I'm still recovering. My voice is recovering, my body is recovering. I don't want to leave. Last night I finished streaming. I remember laying down to start coming up with this next game I'm working on. I had my sketchbook out. I was drawing my ideas, and I woke up this morning. And I woke up with the lights on and the door open and computer on and everything. So I think I'm still trying to recover from PAX. But
Well, I mean, I really shouldn't talk because I've been to either of them, but I get the impression that Indiecade is a bit more low key than
more chill.
PAX.
Yeah, for sure. And it's a smaller, just what's the word, like surface area or like landscape. So it's a lot less walking. Museum of Moving Image is a lot smaller than.
It's just
the
I guess
Boston
like a smaller
convention.
venue, you could say.
It's night and day.
Yeah, I've been going to Otakon for the past 5 years, and it's 35,000 people. And every year I go there, I take the next day off from work, and I just relax and sleep the entire day because it's just crazy.
Yeah, we did that on Monday for sure. Where is Otakon?
It's in Baltimore.
Cool.
Indiecade's in New York, right?
New York City, yeah.
We need a
fun.
Buffalo Gaming Con.
Yeah, well, future. Working on it. Now I'm just going ideas.
Come to the showcase. It's the start.
It's the start. It's the start. Oh, so speaking of cons and Buffalo Con and people kind of enjoy talking about cons, so that's what I started working on. Convention Tycoon.
That sounds hilarious.
Right? So I finished PAX and I was just like, I need more of this. I need my fix. And Indicate wasn't soon enough. And I was like, I wish I could I came up with it on Monday and I was like, I want to just be at a convention again. It's like, what if I could make my own convention in Convention Tycoon? And that's where I am now.
So you can infuriate people and make your thing the E3 of today.
If you want to.
And close down all the bathrooms.
Are you going to design it like Roller Coaster Tycoon? How you can ride the roller coasters?
Oh.
So in this, you can just like wait in lines?
For the giant T-Rex.
That should definitely be a feature.
Can you ride the T-Rex? That should be a feature.
That should be DLC to wait on the lines and ride the T-Rex.
That's definitely an interesting idea. So,
yeah, we'll see where it goes.
Well, I don't want to drill you too much on the mechanics because I know it's still early.
Yeah, I have no idea. That'll be interesting.
That could definitely be really interesting.
Okay, or it could be terrible, like most game ideas.
Yeah.
As someone who hasn't had the luxury of going to a con yet, I'd be very interested in simulating it from the comfort of my own office.
You should go to one of the bigger cons, whatever it is, because they're just an incredible experience with that many people in one room. It's insane.
Incredible is an interesting choice of word there.
Yeah, having gone to some larger conventions and stuff, like, I feel like Indicate's more my speed these days.
Yeah.
Like, I like a smaller venue, not as many people. Sure, there's a little bit of, bunching up and lining here, but there's really no lines to speak of. It's more just people are there to check stuff out, meet each other, see what's up, have a couple of drinks later. There's some good talks about, people's thoughts on the industry and things that they've made and how they made them. And it kind of keeps it, I don't know. I don't want to use the word academic, but it's a little bit more academic than some of the other ones. It's just more just like, let's talk about theory and opinions and how we've done certain things.
It sounds like it's more about like the actual art of games and making games versus just like brand new from Blizzard, I think
that's what they want it to be.
It's not the new Call of Duty. It's here's a game that has a doorbell attached to a helmet and you have to hit the other person's head and you got to do it first. And when you do, it's going to take a picture of your face and we're going to put it up on a big screen because this is crazy and it's awesome.
That's also a real game.
It's literally something that happened in the last Indicated when I was there. And it's just people try out these crazy, awesome, amazing little ideas and just kind of see what sticks and what works.
What I wonder is Indicate West like that? Because I know Indicate East is still fairly new and so it's pretty small.
Yeah,
is Indicate West crazy?
Indicate
or crazier?
Prime.
Indicate Prime, yeah.
It's still, it's much bigger. I gotta imagine it's crazier just because, but it's still a subset,
Sure.
At the end of the day, as much as people in our general sphere take it for granted, it's still a niche, right?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. I'm still thinking about the artistry of like there's a certain appreciation for games as a medium, I think, at a venue like that you don't get at PAX or E3 or these other bigger tentpole events, because again a lot of these other events they're still about kind of pitching your game, and you get the smaller stuff like PAX where you can meet the developers and everything, but a lot of it's still a lot of people going there are consumers. And with something like Indiecade or maybe like GDC is a big one, where it's developer focused or people that are actually interested in the craft of making games as well as enjoying and playing games and finding new ways to use games.
Yeah, there's really, this other one, the trade shows are really about bringing in all the reporters, let them all try all your stuff, put on your, biggest, shiniest booth and make all your stuff look amazing. And yeah, GDC and Indiecade are much more, here's how we did this crazy thing, and here's what all broke along the way, and this is why we all thought we sucked, and this is how we pulled it from the ashes into something that you guys kind of like. And it's relative interesting talks about that kind of stuff. Yeah, much more appreciation for the kind of craft and what goes into it, and new ideas are much more exciting than the new sequel of the big hot thing and the shiniest booth. There's no booths. I mean,
they don't have
there's
booths.
A couple of tables. I think Nintendo had like 3 tables last time, and they were like the big setup.
The only thing they do is they have the show and tell thing, which is like a 2-hour time slot at a table at like a cafe. You could show your game. It's like a first come first serve thing. Like they registered for it like a few months ago. Other than that, you can't like buy a booth. I think they're very adamant about like not selling booths at IndieCade or something.
Yeah, they have a few like showcase games that they want to show. I think.
Yeah, like mine hype.
Yeah, that's right. Qazi's gonna be showing his game Skyhook. Check it out on Steam this weekend. Yeah, I think last year it was Chasm, Axiom Verge, Titan Souls, Helldivers, a few other ones.
Yeah, they let the platforms bring some too. Like Nintendo brought a couple of games. I think like Octodad was there. And stuff.
They had little surveys of like letting you play all the games. Which ones you like? Why didn't you like them? That kind of stuff. It was much more interested in like little small groups and testing feedback as opposed to just churning out a line of people.
Yeah, it's mostly like very just curated. Like upstairs, I know they have like kind of more curated indie games that they really like at IndieCade. And so it's like a lot more curated, I guess, than like a trade show, yeah.
And then they have little tournaments.
Like my game, Skyhook Hype.
Speaking of Skyhook, I hear it's coming out soon.
Yeah, I hear the developer decided on a release date this morning and then just told you guys before the podcast started.
Yeah.
And I believe that release date is May 17th on Steam.
Oh, shit.
Oh,
What? SkyhookGame.com.
Congratulations.
Yes.
Don't congratulate me until I actually do it. I'm
Fair
still
enough.
terrified to do it, and I'm worried I'm not going to do it.
I both understand and don't understand your horror at releasing, because frankly the game is insanely polished. It's a ton of fun. Like everybody loves this game. So you could probably just be like, "Yep, I'm done," and people would be happy.
That's the thing. The moment you say, "Yep, I'm done," is the moment people are like, "What?" Like people can now say like, "Oh, you should have did this." It's like, "Ah, damn it." Like, yeah, you can update it afterwards, but I feel like all of a sudden it's like all my mistakes are now like in the front. And I'm wrong. I'm obviously wrong, but imposter syndrome.
How long have you been working on this game?
2 years, 2 weeks.
So obviously you're pretty attached to it.
I hate it.
See? Yeah.
Well, that's the thing, after a while, you're just like,
but I love it too.
I love this thing. I want to push it out.
Right.
But, I mean, you've been in early access
Convention
for a while,
sim.
so people have been able to play it.
Right.
It's not like it's just been, a closet project that nobody knows about. Like, people have been able to touch it. You've seen bugs.
Yeah.
You've gotten logs. You've heard people's responses to how it plays.
Right.
So it's not, don't overhype it in your head, because it's already in semi-public eye.
That's actually a really good topic to bring up, is kind of the blur of early access to release. Like the bizarre thing about being on early access, I'm quoting somebody else, I forgot which developer said this, but the day before my game is released, it's already done. And matter of fact, the build I'm going to update tonight, the update I'm putting out, is like very close to the release version of the game. So an early access game, the night before, it was already done. It just said early access on it. But the build you have on Steam is the done version of the game. So the next day, when it's like the big release, well, you already had that game if you got an early access. So it kind of blurs that release hype, which was a real big negative for early access games.
I mean, some people have talked about it in the sense of getting 2 bites at the apple, right? Where it's like you can release on early access, and then you can release like full release.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that's the case.
And yeah, in practice, I agree. I don't know if that's really the case. I think a lot of people are skeptical of early access games. So
very skeptical.
So in one sense, like being in early access doesn't necessarily mean like your hype is gone, because sometimes people see like, oh, I'm watching this progress, and they're waiting for it to actually come out. I did that with Invisible Ink, which is made by a studio that I really like, and I like their stuff, and I was kind of like keeping an eye on it, but I didn't pick it up in early access. And when it finally actually launched, I was like, sweet, and I picked it up, and it was great.
Yeah.
So there's still hype there that you might not see coming.
Yeah.
But I totally get it, how it's kind of like blurs the line. There's no like, and this is the day that nobody has it. Now everybody has it.
Yeah, like usually when a game comes out, you go tell all of its fans or people who are following it, you can go buy it now. They all own it already, so now they can, I guess, go tell their friends to go buy it now. And now they could trust a developer that's not a broken game or whatever, which it hasn't been while it's on early access. It's mostly been not broken.
Mostly not broken.
Mostly not broken.
All right.
Made it, Mom. I made it.
It's a high standard.
But yeah, so that should be interesting. I'll let you guys know how it goes, or I won't, suckers.
Fine.
No, it's one of those nonsensical things. I saw a post the other day. It was one of those silly, like, the My Little Pony picture. It's like, Pony says, and it was like a fortune crap, but it made me think of the Jam when I saw it, because it's like, nothing is as simple as it seems at first, as hopeless as it seems in the middle, or as finished as it seems in the end. And it's like totally true.
That's so good. Yeah. Thank you, My Little Pony, for giving us that. That's really good.
Because there was that's I get the double-edged sword of the launch hype too, because it's like there's hype, game's coming out, it's finally done. And then when you push that button and people buy it, you're gonna be like, sweet, I just made some money on these. Oh no, here comes the bug reports. I'm gonna be working on this for 2 months.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, releases very often just now it's time to go support the game extra hard because more people have bought it, kind of deal.
Way more eyes on it, and if people who bought it right in like day one are like, crashes when I load it, bullshit, thumbs down, like you gotta turn those people like real quick, or they can screw everything up.
Yeah, well, that's actually one of the big positives I think to the whole Steam refund policy, because it's like, if it really doesn't work, like, I'm sorry. Like, I can't help you. I'm a one-person team, but you can get your money back. Like, but I'm very sorry. And I think that's actually been one of the biggest positives to it. Like, I've had that issue with Linux a lot, where it's like, I really don't know how to fix this very weird Linux issue, but, you know, I can offer you a refund while I'm working on it. And I've had a few people who actually then rebought the game once I was able to fix the issue, which is sweet. Yeah.
That's good.
Quite.
Oh, it tastes good.
Yes.
Smells like bourbon.
Quiet.
But Doom Beta, though.
Oh, God.
I've seen a lot of chatter about that on the Slack.
Oh, jeez. Here we go.
Way to change the subject off.
Those good
So
segue.
anyway, Skyhook release. All right.
Yeah, see it, Doom.
Yeah, talking early access.
Why does Skyhook make you think of Doom? Is that what you're getting at here?
Skyhook is more like Doom than the new Doom is like Doom.
Oh, I was just wondering it.
I don't want to see that quote on Polygon tomorrow.
I was
it
actually
to
hear my words.
I was just wondering if Quasi's depressed, but
Skyhook, the day it launches, I'm just gonna be like, thumbs up. This is like more like the new Doom than I was hoping.
The doomiest game you've ever played.
That would be a good Steam review. What day does Doom come out? May 17th.
It is
I think it's
soon.
very close to that, actually.
Yeah.
Did you look at any big
I think
titles
it's
you want to be up
24th.
against?
I only checked on that
Maybe.
day, and I was like, oh, this looks like there's nothing. Yeah.
I don't know.
Nice.
I was really on top of Doom until I played the multiplayer beta. And actually, no, it wasn't even that turned me off of it, because we were talking about it before. Because I heard about the multiplayer beta, so I downloaded it in advance and I installed it and got all good to go. And I was playing it for a while, and I just recently built a new PC within the last 6 months. And prior to that, I wasn't able to play any AAA new titles at all. So I throw this on here and I'm like, wow, it's like pretty graphics and it's new and it's shiny and it's awesome.
Shiny.
And I'm telling people and they're like, yeah, it sucks. And I'm like, well, but it's shiny and it's cool.
You guys know what you're talking about. You're not seeing the shiny.
Yeah, it's like clearly. But getting into it more, man, it's not bad, but it's not Doom.
It's May 13, by the way. You guys scared the crap out of me.
That was just a guess, honestly. That was.
And like,
You know what's coming out on the 17th? New Zelda.
God, let me check. Hold on.
17th of
2017.
2000. Yeah.
Doom's never really been notable for its multiplayer in the first place, so it's probably not the best way to beta the game. However,
I found that was an interesting decision as well. It's like I saw some of the comments that people were making about the new Doom beta, and I was like, but I don't care because I never played Doom multiplayer. But then,
so yeah, today there was a leak, or it was actually supposed to go out. I don't even know anymore. Was it a leak?
If you watch the trailer, there are points there where it says remove text, and there's very obvious placeholder stuff sitting inside of that.
What I saw was it definitely looked like some sort of publication was doing a playthrough of some part of the main campaign with one of the developers. I was watching a clip of, and it looked like Halo with demons.
Oh dear, that sucks.
It
Sounds awesome.
Because like, all right, the trademark thing about Doom, there's a few things. One of them is that you move like 60 miles a second. Like you are the fastest mofo on earth.
is that the case in Doom 3?
No, Doom 3 is very slow, but Doom 3 was trying to be something totally different. And I can let Doom 3 go because it was more a tech demo, and they were very upfront about the fact that it's a different kind of game. This new one, they were like, we're going back to the roots. It's going to be like the original Doom. It's not Doom 3. And it's totally like Doom 3. Like, you're slow. The guns aren't great. And the really exciting thing about the original Doom was the way the enemies you danced with them. Like, the game's not really about shooting. It's about movement and interaction. And Doom had a very simple set of AI instructions for each enemy that did very specific things. It was predictable. But when you threw a bunch of enemies into a room together, like all sorts of crazy things would always come out of it, and it was always exciting and very fun. And this new game looks like it's just about glory kills and flashy animations, and it's playable on a gamepad. It's not. It looks nice. It's just not Doom.
The closest thing I think to a modern Doom that we've gotten is probably the Serious Sam series, where you get the sort of incredibly fast movement speed, and then you get the sort of enemy behavior that encourages sort of learning the patterns and learning how they all behave, and then again you get these just monstrous arenas of like 1,000 crazy dudes with bombs running at you as fast as they can. Also, some mayhem breaks out. So
I would agree with that. I would also say that to that point, Serious Sam's definitely got a sense of humor about it.
Yes,
and the original Doom, if you read up on it, their main influences for it were they wanted to make a game that's a mashup of Evil Dead and Aliens.
Yeah.
So it's equal parts comedy, horror, blood and guts. And the new Doom is it's heavy on the blood and guts, and it's heavy on the action, but there's like a certain degree of levity there that's just absent.
It's sort of lost its soul. I mean, with Doom, you can definitely see like there are a bunch of dudes who wanted to make a game, and you can see sort of the office jokes kind of coming out into the game every once in a while, and all of that's just been completely ripped out of the new Doom.
Looking at the business model of id at the time when Doom was originally being made, I mean, they were an indie studio. They were a bunch of guys that were working at Apogee. They quit and stole a bunch of equipment and were making a game in their garage on the weekends, and went off and made one of the biggest video game successes in history. I mean, it's kind of the indie dream right there to a degree. So yeah, it's definitely the original Doom was a passion project for sure, and this new one is a Bethesda game.
Yeah.
Well, I think part of it, I mean, like you said, Doom 3 is kind of a tech demo, right? One of the things that I think, sinks any of these new attempts is, how much time it takes to make like a demon skull that you jump through or whatever, and make these graphics and these incredible set pieces and all this beautiful stuff. You know how much time it takes to make all that stuff, and then to blow by it running 190 miles an hour into a weakly textured wall. They just can't. They can't stomach it. And I think to make it like everybody wants it to be, like speed-wise, they'd have to just be like, hey, no graphics. No graphics. We're done. We're done with graphics. Everything's going to be a flat wall with weird textures, but you're going to run 1,000,000 miles an hour. We're going to have the craziest guns ever, and it's going to be crazy and nuts.
I'd play that.
Yeah. I was going to say, actually, like, even backing up prior to the movement point, like, the amount of time and effort that went into the assets in, like, new Doom game, just even looking at, like, the crappy YouTube quality video, like, it's refined. There was a lot of work done on that. It's very good looking. It was obviously made by a very large team. The original Doom was made by like 5 guys, and the in-game assets were either pixel art sketches, they were using like toy store toys and trinkets for reference models, and they were doing some like limited stop motion animation and just like pulling textures from like motherboards they had sitting around the office.
Everything's 2D.
Everything. Well, it's not even just the 2D versus 3D. It's the fact that it was just easily, quickly constructed assets.
Well, the big problem I had with Doom 3 is it felt like with Doom 3 they said, all right, so here's what enemies are going to do. They're going to go and jump out of different, sort of holes in the wall. And it felt like, somebody had like a checklist of, all right, are there enough demon spawn points in this level? Let's go through the checklist and make sure that this level hits our quota of the same exact sort of behavior there. And there wasn't this sort of goofy freedom to experiment, freedom to do stuff, so much as they put together a very strict design doc for Doom 3, and they stuck with it 100%. They never deviated anything fun with it.
I'd agree with that. I think that it was, again, you get the larger team, and like I was saying with it being a tech demo, I mean, that game's about lighting, which is why the enemies jump out at you all the time. John Carmack wanted to make a game
with that flashlight mechanic.
Yeah, they wanted to have the dynamic lighting.
Duct tape mod.
And
first mod, they came out like
the
day
duct tape
one,
mod,
most popular mod.
And like it works, the jump scare mechanic, at least for the first half
for
hour
the first
or so. The
hour or
game.
two it works, and then after that, then you'll start turning around and you'll see like a hallway. You'll turn around and walk backwards from it because something's gonna spawn from it.
Yeah,
like you can start seeing the spawn points after about an hour.
But I think again, like with the smaller team of the original and the tool set they came up with, it allowed for a lot more creativity in the development of it. And there also wasn't any like serious story or hardcore design doc for it that they really stuck to like glue.
With Doom 1, you can tell like one of the artists was like, "Hey, can I do that?" And Kameric was like, "Yeah, we can probably do that." And that's kind of how the thing was built, and it was just very sort of brainstormed as it went along. I remember what was it? Gears of War, I think 2 is probably one of the worst examples of, let's build a giant game, break it up into chunks, and then give it, to individual sort of mini studios in the studio itself. If you play like Gears of War 2, there's one segment where you get swallowed by this giant worm thing, and you do the whole level, and none of it has any impact on anything else. It's like a 3-hour segment, and it's entirely useless.
But they had to hit that note.
Yep.
Do you guys know of any studios, indie or big, that are doing anything similar to Doom 1?
I mean, the closest stuff out there, just completely off the top of my head, and it might be wrong, is, talk about Gears of War, Lawbreakers is trying to go back to, like, the old Unreal style. And the new open source Unreal project, they're going back to the old kind of 90s arena shooter.
I mean, yeah, you've
style.
got the guys working on the current iteration of Unreal Tournament.
But is that like single player also? That's going to be similar to Doom 1?
Oh, see, no, that's all multiplayer, like Lawbreakers is. I'm trying to think single player.
It seems like you guys are more pointing at the single player aspects of it.
The closest thing I can think of is
Devil Daggers.
Oh well, yeah, actually, Devil Daggers. Devil Daggers is a really good example because it's got. I mean, there's no. One of the things about Doom that was great is the level design. Devil Daggers takes place on a plane in space. There's nothing there.
Final Destination.
However, it actually kind of
Fox only.
But the thing about Devil Daggers that's really great is it's got the movement.
Star Fox.
It's got a good simple weapon mechanic, and the enemies are really interesting, and the dynamics, like that game's built around enemy swarm AI.
Yeah.
And it's because they focused on that design element and kind of restricted it to that, it comes through as a better, more exciting gameplay mechanic because you got to be looking 360 all the time. Yep. There's all these crazy things flying at you.
It's a bit more about doing that dance like you were talking about.
Exactly. It's a game less about shooting, more about movement.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's something a lot of modern shooters have kind of lost, is that they focus on, like iron sights and, these crazy weapons and upgrades and things. And there's more to the game than just that,
Yeah.
Well, the reason why Doom was able to get away with that is you have either the demons shooting fireballs or charging up or doing other kind of things. And if you set a game, in modern times, you can't have like, the terrorist shooting a fireball, Hadoken style at you. It just doesn't work very well. So you sort of are, I guess, limited almost by the realism of some of the newer games where you sort of are forced to take certain mechanics.
Well, that gets into a whole other discussion on whether or not realism in games is actually hurting the medium, which I personally feel that it is.
Well, I think that there's something to be said for both arguments to it. There are certainly some games that are much better with realism, some that are much better without. For example, Doom obviously wouldn't be any good. But then you have a lot of these racing games which are just incredibly nitpicky about the detail.
Sure.
And in most of these, the devil is in the detail where, you can have these people racing, and doing stuff so well that they actually get drafted into actual, racing teams. Mm-hmm. But there's a lot of, things to be said for being able to refine, your skill by working with the realism there.
Mm-hmm. I think a lot of it depends on what you're trying to do. So for simulations, obviously, you want to have that level of realism. Yeah. Whereas if you're making something arcadey, you don't want to have, ultra realistic terrorists in it.
Yeah, I play a lot of flight sims, and I'll play X-Plane, and then I'll play like Ace Combat, and they both have their own, different need that they fulfill.
Sure.
Sometimes you need, 60 missiles.
Yeah, it's nice to see. We've talked about this a bunch of times, but it's nice to see some of these things come full circle because flight sims they never really went away, but there was like a dip. There was a big dip in our Doom style arcade shooters. Mm-hmm. The market everybody wanted to be the next Doom, so they didn't do anything new. They just copied it and made a million of them. And so everybody just kind of got sick of killing demons and Nazis and whatnot. Mm-hmm. And so they just kind of went away. And what took its place was a more realistic. If you kind of plot them on a graph, you can see the arcade going down and the realistic coming up, and they cross probably right around where Modern Warfare came out, maybe even earlier, maybe even Call of Duty 2.
Yeah, I think a lot of that is due to the popularity of stuff like Call of Duty 2, Call of Duty as well.
And because a lot of people forget too that Call of Duty 2 was amazing.
Yeah.
It was a great game.
Yeah.
You know?
That and, I mean, Halo and stuff, they really just changed the shooter. So that's kind of what happened there. But now they're getting to that point, just like they're getting with flight sims and space sims and stuff. They're like, oh, we kind of missed that stuff. Why
did people stop making these?
Yeah, what
Same
happened
thing with the
here?
arena shooters, you're going to see those coming back, I feel.
Yeah, like tycoon games.
Yeah.
I think that some of that comes with the democratization, as much as I don't particularly care for that term, but of the tool sets available. I mean, it's getting to the point where almost anyone can make a game, which is amazing, because that means that all these genres and types of games that were just kind of passé with, big industry, players, people can just be like, I want to make this game because I miss it, and then they can just go do it.
I remember when I was in middle school and high school, I took a look at how to make my own 3D games, and it was, all right, here's DirectX, have fun, kids.
Mm-hmm.
And you'd have to go, write your own, FBX, renderer, basically, to do all this stuff. And nowadays, it's like, oh, yeah, drag and drop, boom, models in here. All right, turn the lighting on, we're good to go.
I've got a book at home that I picked up when I was in high school. It's an intro to DirectX 8, making games DirectX 8.
I think I have this book.
It's approximately 900 pages. It assumes you already have a working knowledge of C++, and by the end of it, you learn how to make a top-down clone of asteroids in 2D. That's the whole thing it teaches you. I can go online right now. I could find a web page. I could find a video on YouTube that's 10 minutes long, teaches me how to make the same game in 3D and better.
Yeah, the funny thing that you'll see every once in a while is people are now like speed running game development, which I think is just violently funny.
Really?
Where you'll see somebody on YouTube and they'll be like, "So we're gonna do Pac-Man in like 20 minutes," and they'll just bang the whole thing out. It's incredible.
Is this really a thing?
I've never seen that either.
I've seen it every once in a while. Someone
want
will be
in.
like, "Yeah,
This sounds amazing.
we're gonna
Sounds
do
like a
this like
challenge.
super quick."
Yeah.
All right, by the time we go home tonight,
Yeah.
Pac-Man, asteroids, Galaga.
Dude,
All right,
I want in.
sorry.
All right, yeah. There's a it kind of reminds me, there's a game jam. It might still be running called Glorious Trainwrecks. I was a really big
So
proponent of
BGS Jam 5.
What it was they recommended people use really crappy tools, and the rules were be the Ed Wood of game designers. You have to make a game in 2 hours, and it's got to be fantastically awful.
Oh man,
That was it.
the one thing that I've been kicking around / threatening people with is one of these game jams I'm going to do an FMV game, and it's going to be amazing. I really want to do one time.
On the subject of FMVs, getting away from short game jam prototypes, there's some FMVs that have come out in the last year that have been really good.
Yeah, I was playing
Her Story won awards, and that's an FMV.
Okay, so assuming that someone on the podcast who's like listening right now doesn't know what FMV
Okay.
is, and everyone in the room definitely does know what.
Assuming it's not Qazi.
I can give a quick definition and a little brief history. So FMV is short for full motion video, and these came about in the early '90s at the dawn of CD technology.
Actually, they were VHS. Sewer
Oh, all right.
VHS
So
game.
technically, if you want to go even older than that, yeah, they were VHS prototypes.
So the basic premise is that users quote unquote interact with video. Normally, what happens is you play a video full screen, and then something happens with the video, and you're normally prompted for like a quick time event, or they might like superimpose a game on top of it, or they might pre-render a lot of just really horrific sprites. But generally, it ties a lot of smaller clips together. There's a game called Sewer Shark where they sort of superimpose a Star Fox's shooter on top of it.
They took sprites, little 2D graphics, and overlaid them on top of strings of videos of tunnels, and you move a little cursor around and shoot these various pieces as they come at you. The idea was, if you can shoot it on video, it's going to get you the ultimate in realism in games. You'll have higher fidelity animation.
It's the best graphics
It's going to be
possible.
the best graphics imaginable because it's real life. What ended up happening was that the budgets were insanely high for games that weren't terribly interactive. And like Sewer Shark is early example, is a Sega CD title that was supposed to be like the future of gaming. You can beat the whole game in under an hour. It's not very good. The mechanics are extremely repetitive.
The acting is
the
amazing.
acting is comically bad. And that kind of it died a quick death. And
These are videos of human beings in the real world.
yes.
Oh, I see.
Another good example is Night Trap, which was actually a huge controversy politically when that came out, and that's part of the reason why we've got the rating system we do now.
I think one of the better, actually, FMV games is probably a game called Tomcat Alley, where they sort of tried to make a flight sim out of this. It works because they tie together a lot of very short clips, and you have to go interact with them. what they also did quite a bit back on the Sega CD is they would be like, here's your regular game, and now we're going to throw some like really terrible movie cutscenes inside of this. So Road Rash is a great example. To have Road Rash on CD, and you play like regular Road Rash, and then your sort of reward for either wiping out horribly or winning the race is some just really horrific 16-bit video of really amazing acting.
Mm-hmm.
Now, have you guys seen Press X to Not Die?
No.
I've heard of this.
So I'm tempted to bring it up and even just like play like the 1 minute thing like over audio, but it's literally a brand new indie made full motion video game with basically branching narrative stuff. It's like a group of friends shooting this stuff, and it's like a zombie apocalypse game, but that's the name of the game. And it's like the opening cutscene is like the guy running into your room like, hey, you didn't see what's going on? Dude, you just need to know. Press X to not die. And like somebody jumps out and is like, with a knife, and you hit X and then like you knock him down. And then they kill the other guy.
Shoot him in the head.
And it's literally like it seems like this group of friends putting it together. They got like people like you see somebody getting like jacked on their bike, and it's like, do you help him? Do you like fight the enemies? Do you steal his bike? And then it shows like what happens when you click
I think I've
each
seen
one.
this. Yeah,
and it's like it shows him like fighting the people off, and then it's like, no, steal his bike. It's like, sorry, dude. First person full motion video.
For anyone who hasn't ever seen or played a full motion video before, or a game before, a lot of the games that came out in the early era of this actually played like that, but they were trying to be serious about it.
Yeah.
And that's why it failed so badly.
The new Tex Murphy game is pretty funny because it's very tongue-in-cheek about this, but the FMV stuff actually held on for quite a while. Like a lot of the Japanese RPGs, like we would see these big cutscenes like from Final Fantasy, that's all a holdover from all the old FMV games where you'd have, the sort of reward for doing whatever would be your FMV of something.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it did stem into cutscenes, I guess.
Her story won a lot. It was a very serious game, right? It won a ton of awards.
We've talked about it several times on the podcast. Greg brought it up. He played it. He kind of almost invented a new way to play it, which I guess it's not really, but he played it with his girlfriend, and they played it together, like discussing what was going to happen next and whatnot. I know Ryan just finished it himself.
Yeah, we talked about it a decent amount last week, even.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, I feel like some of that's starting to come back a little bit, especially with the success of her story and stuff. But you're seeing it pop up here and there. There's another game I saw in it recently, but it's kind of a spoiler, so I don't want to. But it was a surprising
back
game.
Then it was they were trying to be like, hey, look at these sweet graphics. It's actually real people. You can't beat that, right? And now it's more just like, you know how easy it is for me to take my phone out and film like my friends and put them into a thing?
I think part of it's definitely just the cheapness of it now. And I think another part too is it goes back to kind of what we were talking about earlier in terms of realism and things. It's people using the appropriate tools for the kind of story or game they want to make. Mm-hmm. And like her story, you could do it with full CG cinematics and mocap and everything, but it's not really necessary.
You wouldn't relate as much to the character.
Exactly, yeah. So it's using the right tool for the right job.
I'm just glad that we could talk about Sewer Shark twice in a podcast.
Oh my god.
Because I have not thought about that game in a good 20
Everyone
years.
should play that
My
game.
watermark.
Sewer Shark. Oh man, people actually knock that game a lot. I still firmly believe it's actually kind of fun.
Sewer Shark has some decent parts to it. I remember there's another game called Microcosm on the Sega CD. It was a lot of fun. But I just remember some of on the PC, some horrific load times with games like Oregon Trail 3, I think, where it came on like 6 CDs. You could keep swapping them out.
It was something that I feel we're going to have a sort of return to with VR. It was a new platform, and people didn't know what the hell to do with it. Well, so they're just kind of like throwing in whatever at the wall and see what sticks. Yeah, and some of it did, and some of it really, really didn't.
The nice thing I think about making an FMV game in this day and age is everybody is acutely aware of the mistakes of FMV and how not to do it. So if you're going in making an FMV game, you probably have played Sewer Shark at some point, and you know what to avoid.
Mm-hmm. There's certain tropes you probably don't want to fall into when making that kind of a game. Or maybe you do, if that's what you're actually trying to go for. If you're trying to make a parody of...
See the new Tex Murphy game, which is hilarious.
All right, yeah, see, like that.
So there's an interesting thing that came up that we kind of got distracted from talking about FMVs. game dev speedrunning? What the hell?
Yeah, seriously.
How do you guys, as game devs, how do you guys feel about that? Is what I'm curious about.
I think as an exercise, it's an excellent idea because the whole point of something like a game jam is it's a restriction in terms of time that forces you to kind of think in a certain way and produce in a certain way. So I think trying to crunch down on that time even more to see what you can crank out, I think that's really interesting. I feel that I can't really put it into words, but it kind of reminds me of the demo scene for some reason.
The demo scene?
Yeah.
What's that?
Sort of like code poetry, like trying to do really interesting things on low-level machines with like really tight restrictions. So like really small amounts of code doing really usually visual and audio wow factor kind of stuff.
I remember before Doom 3 came out, somebody released a game that looked like Doom 3 in about 64 kilobytes of code. It was unbelievable, and it just melted everybody's PC. But they procedurally generated a ton of textures, and they turned on, every single DirectX feature they could. They had all their bump mapping, speculars, and everything there, and it looked incredible in 64K of code.
So with the speed running of development, though, I mean, how do you feel about it?
I'm trying to wrap my head around it. So, speedrunning is obviously huge now in game development. People have been probably doing it for a long time, but now, sorry, not game development, in gaming. People have been speedrunning for a long time, but there wasn't like a platform to really show it off or express as much as there is now, or now we have these massive events that raise millions of dollars for charities and stuff, which is awesome. But what's weird about game development is how do we do it? Like, what are the rules? Like, because speedrunning is about doing the same thing over and over and getting faster at it. So say if we're speedrunning Pac-Man game development, do I make the same game every time and I'm just kind of writing the same exact code to get faster? Is using an engine cheating?
No, because I think all right, if you're doing the same game every time and you're not expanding upon that, you're essentially just increasing your words per minute on the keyboard.
Right.
So
that's the weird thing about programming.
I think it'd be something more along the lines of like coming up with a different kind of game every time within like a certain window of restrictions. And
I think they call those game jams.
Well, yeah, all right. So it's I guess it is like a micro game jam kind of.
So the reason it piqued my interest because that's what we do on my stream. So I came up with Qazi Jam last 2 weeks ago. So we did Qazi Jam 3 or Qazi Jam 7, which was a 3-hour game jam. And so the idea was that everyone in chat throws in a word, and we choose 3 to 4 random words, and that's the theme now. So our first one, I don't remember what it was. The second one was the most recent one. We did Qazi Jam 14. And it was...
These numbers keep increasing exponentially.
Yes. Oh, I remember the first one now. It was...
Yeah.
The first one was like space, cats, monkeys, and a few other words. And so we had 3 hours, or I had 3 hours to make a game while streaming. And so then the viewers also get in on it, and they do their own game in 3 hours. So it was like a very small micro game jam, which was very hard. And the end result is always hilarious and awful and even worse than a 48-hour or 24-hour game jam. So it's interesting to think that someone might be trying to speedrun stuff in like 20 minutes, which would be insane but awesome. Maybe
I think taking that kind of approach, where you've got a set amount of time and a random theme, you will start to kind of, if you do it enough, pick up on certain patterns and like design methods when crafting stuff that you're like, I can crank this mechanic out in 5 minutes, and this one takes 15. I'm going to lean towards that one and use it in interesting ways.
Absolutely. My first Quasi Jam game was a space shooter because 3 hours space shooter, much easier.
Right.
Second one was nothing. It was a game where you were a banana picking up cows in a spaceship or something. I forget what it was, but it was basically a space shooter, I guess.
Yeah. So here's kind of a funny thought that might be fun for a game jam is, instead of giving people a theme, what if you gave people a bunch of assets and we're like, here's a sprite sheet. Go make a game with the sprite sheet. Whatever.
You're just saying that because you're a programmer and you don't want to do your own art.
This is entirely true, by the way.
It's always true.
I feel like that might already be a thing. I mean, if it isn't, it should be, because that's kind of a cool idea. Because you'll get like if you gave everybody the same set of assets, there's a design language there. That's an alphabet you've got to work with. Yeah. So every game is going to look the same, except it won't.
Yeah.
There's going to be like a recurring theme with each one. Aesthetically,
as a programmer, I think it'd be fun because if you did that and we had the micro 1 day sprite sheet game jam here, then it wouldn't be our team versus your team. It would just be me and you. Everybody's versus each other, and we kind of need to see who's more creative with this and who can code faster.
I feel like what you're describing is the programming equivalent of dueling banjos.
Yes.
I love it. I think
you guys should join Quasi Jam 21.
Basically, I want to grab Wayne. I want to be like
tunes with art.
Yeah, I want to be like, hey Wayne, give us an old tile set of yours, and I want to go have like a 1-day jam with it and see what comes out of it.
Well, we have a few tile sets from Wayne in our BGS asset pack.
Yes.
It's up on our itch, so have at it.
Buy it now.
Yep.
You guys should join Quasi Jam 21, coming soon to a Quasi near you.
So mini jam, anybody? Because I would do that.
I mean, there's no reason not to. We could make it in a project night thing.
Yeah.
You know, that's 2 hours right there. 7 to 9. Make a game.
Awesome.
I don't know. It's crazy town for a lot of people.
Yeah, it's a certain level of
really
experience.
I mean, like I said,
it
I mean,
also
I've-
locks you into certain design decisions.
Space shooter.
right there.
I mean,
you're gonna
it-
make asteroids 100 times.
it-
You're gonna
Yep.
make
Well, yeah, but
breakout.
Well, so
Pac-Man.
you certainly
Maybe not
can,
even
but
Pac-Man in
at
2
the same
hours.
time, like if everybody
AI.
tried to make asteroids in 2 hours, there would still be a lot of fundamental differences with how they control, with how they played, with how you did things. So I think it'd be kind of neat to see, what people's sort of base ideas are in that small 2 hour period.
I think too. I don't think everyone would make. I mean, some people would like
Well, if you
all
give
make
an
the same
asteroid
kind of
tile
thing.
set,
Yeah.
then yeah, but
No, what I was gonna say is that if you're restricting yourself to 2 hours to develop something, you obviously want a challenge.
yeah.
You're not gonna make the same thing every time you do it, unless you're just kind of a boring person or you're really insecure.
Shots fired.
I'm just saying, like, all right, that's too harsh. Maybe you're not comfortable doing something that crazy, which is fine. But you will get to the point doing that enough where you'll want to try something different.
I think what you're trying to say is there's no point in doing it unless you're going to challenge yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And challenges might actually be, let's go make asteroids in 2 hours. That's certainly a worthy challenge for a lot of people.
Absolutely.
Well, now I want to try to make Pac-Man in 20 minutes. I wish you hadn't brought that up.
Well, I was gonna say, like, I've done
That'd
this.
be a tall order
It's
for
impossible.
for
Yeah,
me.
20 minutes is too short.
I might be able to do it in 4 or 5 hours, maybe.
It all depends
Yeah.
on.
It depends on how smart you want the ghosts to be.
Yeah.
And how.
And I heard they were
How much
very
do I have
smart.
to do from scratch, or how much can I dig through old projects and Frankenstein's small?
Yeah, there is that too.
I heard the ghosts in Pac-Man were actually fairly intelligent, right? Or had like personalities or something.
They all have different logic. So every ghost in Pac-Man has a different behavior set. So some of them follow you. Some of them, I forget which one has which, but it's one of them follows directly. One of them moves completely randomly. One of them is always set to try to head you off. So like their pathfinding goes to where you're headed. And then there's another one that's it heads to like the next choke point that you're heading towards. But they're all different. Yeah.
I think while refining this game dev speedrunning idea, is what could be interesting is if like you have a set of rules that you have to hit. So say it's like, all right guys, we're speedrunning Pac-Man like for this one, and so the rules are like you have to have 3 kinds of ghosts. These are their behaviors. You have to be able to move, eat pellets, power ups, eat your ghosts. Like a certain set of rules from the original game that you have to address.
you're saying you
have
get
to
a design
code in-
doc.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. You get a
Yeah.
design doc, and you have to hit these targets in this amount of time.
Yeah, because a jam allows you to be creative, but I don't think if you're going to speedrun, then like the creativity breaks the speedrun.
That's a good. I think you're right.
like you can't get creative in a Super Mario 64 speedrun.
I mean, when you speed run Zelda,
it's the maximum or minimum. Yeah.
You're restricted to a rule set.
You're maxing.
Yeah.
You're going like this is the fastest way, and if you go any other way, everybody else who goes the other way is going to beat you.
Yeah, but to find that fastest way, you can try to be creative, and people continue to try to break fastest speedruns and like do something a little bit weirder or whatever.
So you could be like, I'm going to write Pac-Man in 2 hours, and I'm going to try to come up with the most efficient way of writing AI in that span of time for the ghosts. That kind of thing. And you were talking about doing the same game every time. You could focus on a different element, and like, I want to write the cleanest code for the input system for Pac-Man or the level management.
Yeah, well, so Pac-Man is a very rigid game, but if we think about even like a basic 2D side-scrolling shooter, there's a ton of interesting things you can do with like enemy patterns and movement speed.
Sure.
And even those 2 variables right there can drastically change one person's game from the next. And seeing that sort of evolve,
but it's really hard to do in 2 hours.
Yeah, I
Well,
know.
I was gonna say
Really
that scenario,
hard to do.
it's not a coding challenge. That's a design challenge.
Yeah.
That's where I spin up a template and I give it to you, and I say, "Here's my exposed variables. Tweak them to your desirability, and we're all going to make different use of them." I mean, it's the only way that you get something out of it. And really, what you're talking about is they're still running, they're still jumping, there's still speed, there's still whatever. Unless you're going to reinvent a new mechanic that isn't jumping, shooting, sliding, dying, hitting objects, colliding with platforms, you you would have to start with that. Grappling hooks.
I guess it sounds like, because it still sounds like we're kind of talking about a game jam in a very short amount of time, but the point of differentiation is a speedrun game dev has way more restrictions on it.
Right.
Yeah, it's not so much a creative outcome.
Right.
It's a creative use of your time to get to that outcome.
Because
the question is, who's in? Who's in?
You can't see it, but I'm raising my hand.
So am I.
I mean, like I was gonna say, I've done a couple of the 2-hour game jams before, and I came up with some batshit insane games. I don't think we necessarily need to have the restrictions, but it would make for pretty creative outlet either way.
I always thought the 0-hour game jam was just dumb.
What is that?
It's all right. 0-hour game jam is a 1-hour jam that takes place between the hour you lose. I think right
where you fall back.
Fallback. Yeah. So daylight savings time
at 2 a.m. It like starts, and you have like from 2 to 3 to make a game, and then when 3 hits, the clock ticks back to 2. So the idea is you made a game in 0 hours.
But I'll be asleep.
Me too, because it's dumb.
It's a cool idea. It's kind of clever. Honestly,
yeah, it is a clever idea.
Yeah,
but in practice, not
doing anything in game dev in an hour is a bit silly. But even 2 hours might be a little.
So
quick.
I was gonna say the games that I made in 2 hours were by no means. I mean, they were released embarrassingly. Like they're not something you should. I mean, I think it's awesome I made them in 2 hours, but the one is like things are thrown from one side of the screen to the other, and you have a paddle and you bounce them back, and that's it. And the other game was had the incredible title of Long Jump of Doom, where you just rapidly press on 2 keys on the keyboard to increase the speed of a little stick figure, and then right before this line of spiky floor stuff, you hit another button to jump, and you just bounce to your death to try to go as far as you can. And like
that's brilliant.
That's the whole game. It came out okay, but it was. I mean, that's the most you could crank out in 2 hours. Is
and a lot of the time gets lost to creativity. Like in the 3-hour game jams that we do, it's the first 20 to 40 minutes is me being like, what the hell do I make? And kind of hitting my head against the desk.
Yeah.
I mean, even at the BGS jams or the global game jam or the stuff that we run around here for 48 hours, I mean, it's pretty standard for the first 2 to 3 hours just be spent being like, what the heck are we going to do? Who am I going to do it with? How is this going to work?
Yeah, that was my first 2 days of Ludum Dare this last month, and I didn't do it.
Now, I will say with like the games that I did in the 2-hour span, that jam, there's no real theme aside from make a bad game, and it's the same theme every time they run it. So I could think about it well in advance and kind of plan it out.
Sure.
But I can only actually work on it, like create the assets, the code, everything in 2 hours. So it's a different kind of challenge.
Yeah.
Like wrapping up a podcast in 2 hours.
Right.
Which I think we're rapidly approaching.
Yeah,
so
I am hungry.
I
came here for the Chinese food.
There's Chinese food? Oh, shit. All right, so on that note.
Outro music. Do we not have one?
We do now.
We do. Yeah, but that's going to end up in it. Anytime people sing the song, we put it in. So keep an eye out for that. Thanks, everybody, for coming through. As always, it's always great stuff and always fun talking about all these things with everybody here. Check out the games that are coming out from BGS Jam shortly. Check out skyhookgame.com. Skyhook on Steam coming out very soon in the near future. It's on early access right now. You can buy it right now. Also check out twitch.tv/QaziTV, who streams every day during the week from 2 to 5 or 6 or so, whenever he feels like quitting. But he does some really great game dev stuff on there, so check that out. Also, keep an eye out for the BGS Showcase. If you are a local maker, there's a submission form online. Fill that out and become one of our local featured makers here at BGS. And if not, or if you're just interested in this kind of stuff, come out on May 14th on Saturday night for some drinks and checking out some cool local concepts and games and things that were made in more than 2 hours. And it's going to be a lot of fun. So
you can find all the details for that on our blog. It's blog.buffalogamespace.com.
Thanks for all the support as always, and we'll catch you guys next time.